Aslam. Bonnie and Clyde. During 1932, Clyde Barrow and Bonnie Parker burst upon the American Southwest in the midst of the Great Depression. They were among a growing list of celebrity criminals of the modern era, and there have now been 5 movies made that tell their story, and plenty of song lyrics have been written about the notorious young killers. Bonnie was married at the age of 16 and was left on her own when her husband was sent to federal penitentiary just a year after their wedding. To get by, Bonnie landed a job as a waitress, but she was convinced there was more to life than her dead-end job, and she quit. It was around the time Bonnie left her job that she met Clyde Barrow when she was 19 and Clyde was 21. A number of theories have been bandied about over the years about how Bonnie and Clyde first met. The most credible version says that Clyde Barrow met Bonnie Parker in January of 1930. Bonnie was staying with a friend in West Dallas. Clyde dropped by their house while Bonnie was in the kitchen making hot chocolate. There was an immediate attraction. She stood by him, and when he was imprisoned shortly after they met, helping him to escape by smuggling the gun to him in jail. He was recaptured but paroled in early 1932. She remained a loyal companion to him as they carried out their crime spree for the next 2 years and awaited the violent deaths they saw as inevitable. Indeed, rather prone to mythologizing, she wrote poetry, and some of her poems were published after her death, including 2 titled The Story of Bonnie and Clyde and Suicide Cell Clyde. On the other hand, The Story of Bonnie and Clyde and Suicide Cell. Clyde, on the other hand, wasn't nearly as interested in fame and fortune. His goal in life was to exact revenge on the Texas prison system he despised for abuses he felt he had suffered while serving time. During 1932, Bonnie and Clyde hooked up with Raymond Hamilton, a young gunman, for a few months before William Daniel Jones, W.D., replaced him as the third of their criminal trio. The following year, Clyde's brother, Buck, was released from the Texas State Prison, where he had been serving time. He and Clyde had already committed a multitude of robberies, mostly grocery stores and petrol stations, and crimes such as safecracking and car theft. Buck, along with his wife Blanche, joined the gang, making them a quintet. For 2 years, between 32 and 1934, the Barrow gang took bank employees hostage and kidnapped lawmen in the course of their headline-grabbing crime spree. They usually released any prisoners they took far from home, and would even on the occasion give them cash so they could make it back on their own. It was a habit they contributed to the Robin Hood mystique that grew to surround them. The pair were also compared to Shakespeare's star-crossed lovers, being dubbed Romeo and Juliet in a getaway car by one writer. The pair, in reality, had little in common with any heroes of myth or fiction. The Barrow gang did not hesitate to kill anyone if people got in their way. Clyde is believed to have shot and killed at least 10 people. Other members of the Barrow gang wanted for murder by the lawmen included W.D. Jones, Raymond Hamilton, Buck Barrow, Clyde's brother, and Henry Methvin. On 13 April 1933, J.W. West Harriman, a Newton County constable, and Harry McGinnis, a Joplin police detective, approached the gang's hideout, a 2-story apartment in Joplin, Missouri. There ensued a gun battle that left both men dead, but not before, however, they had wounded gang member W.D. Jones and the trio of Jones. Bonnie and Clyde fled in Clyde's car. The gang had left most of their possessions behind inside the $20 a month rented apartment, including a 16-gauge blood-stained shotgun, handwritten poems of Bonnie Parker, a camera, and several rolls of exposed Kodak film. The film, which contained mostly photos taken of each other, was developed by the Joplin Globe newspaper and produced the now famous photos of the members of the gang. After the photos were published, Bonnie and Clyde, whom were on the lam for a month, wised up and started to cover the license plates of their stolen vehicles with coats and hats when they posed for photos. Barrow was now wanted for murder, robbery and kidnapping, and a massive manhunt was launched to locate him. During January 1934, while eluding police, Clyde masterminded the prison escape of Henry Methvin, known Raymond Hamilton, and several other infamous prisoners, an event that was dubbed the East Ham Breakout. If revenge against Texas penal institutions was indeed Barrow's main criminal ambition, then he seemed to have achieved it. The Texas Department of Corrections was considerably embarrassed by the jailbreak, compounded by the fact that 2 prison guards were shot with automatic pistols used by the escaping prisoners. The department commissioned Frank A. Hammer, a 6'3", 230-pound former captain in the Texas Rangers, to come out of his retirement and to hunt down the Barrow Gang. During April of that year, the Barrow Gang lost further sympathy in the eyes of the public when Henry Methvin and Clyde killed 2 young highway patrolmen near Grapevine in Texas, an area now known as South Lake. They killed police constables in Oklahoma a few days later, where they also wounded and abducted an officer. An FBI agent deduced that Bonnie and Clyde were probably hiding out in a remote area south of Ruston, Louisiana, which was close to the home of the Methvins. The combined efforts of the FBI and the local law enforcement authorities in Louisiana and Texas turned up some trump-card information that Bonnie and Clyde with some of the Methvins had thrown a party at Black Lake, Louisiana, on the night of 21st May and were going to return to the area 2 days later. The lawmen decided to stage an ambush. In the early morning of 23rd May, a posse composed of police officers from Louisiana and Texas, including Texas Ranger Frank Hammer, hid in bushes along Highway 154 near Salis, Louisiana. Bonnie and Clyde were identified driving an automobile, and when they attempted to escape, the officers opened fire. The pair of outlaws were killed instantly. No warning was called out to Bonnie and Clyde, and a combined 130 rounds were shot into the car. The pair were shot into the car, riddling the vehicle and its occupants with bullets. Inside the stolen car that Clyde had been driving was a cache of weapons, including automatic rifles, semi-automatic shotguns, handguns, and several thousand rounds of ammunition. There were also 15 license plates from a variety of United States. The bullet-riddled 1934 Ford Deluxe 4-door saloon was purchased in 1988 by the owner of Nevada Hotel and Casino and is regularly on display in Missouri and Nevada. Inscribed on Bonnie's tombstone was a poem she wrote: "As the flowers are all made sweeter by the sunshine and the dew, so this old world is made brighter by the lives of folks like you." 2 captions. Being a gangster, it's a dog's life. Despite the glamorous images associated with the Barrow Gang, their lives were truly desperate. A recently published manuscript revealed Blanche Barrow's account of a life on the run. Clyde, the book says, drove furiously while he searched for places where they could sleep or have a meal without being noticed. Even though they had thousands of dollars gained from bank heists, sleeping in beds was a rare luxury, and one person was always assigned as a lookout. It wasn't a stress-free environment, and far from being a roller coaster ride, the gang existence was characterized by arguments and bickering. The shooting of Bonnie and Clyde. In a statement to the Dallas Dispatch newspaper on the day after the shooting of Barrow and Parker, one of the posse of officers gave the following description of events. Each of us 6 officers had a shotgun and an automatic rifle and pistols. We opened fire with an automatic rifles. They were emptied before the car got even with us. Then we used shotguns. There was smoke coming from the car, and it looked like it was on fire. After shooting the shotguns, we emptied the pistols at the car, which had passed us, and ran into the ditch about 50 yards down the road. It almost turned over. We kept shooting at the car even after it stopped. We weren't taking any chances. Thank you very much for listening.